Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR Official 24 channel. Matt plans to kill Noah and Sienna. Mariah embraces her fortune, and Tessa files for divorce. Wake up Snookums. Matt tells Sienna of the motel as he takes a videotape of her. He tells her the videotape is the key to his future, but she doesn't get one. At the new estate, Nick complains to his father about how brassy Matt was. Neither of them suppose that Matt is going to hold up his end of the bargain. Victor says that Matt is a hopeless, wounded beast. Nick says they need to calculate on him tripping up by allowing he's smarter than everyone. Victor is sure that Clark has no idea what they've planned for him. Nick says they need to get Sienna back for his son's sake. Victor asks if they can trust her. His son does, and he feels indebted to help her. They wonder what really happened with Allie. Matt textbooks Nick, saying he's made a decision and wants to meet. Since Nick knows bringing security could mess effects up, Victor suggests commodity differently. At Sharon's, Noah continues to horrify about Sienna while his mama tries to assure him Nick has this handled. They're startled when Adam shows up to check in and wish them a happy new time. His father has filled him in on Matt Clark. They talk about the peril Sienna is in. Noah feels trapped in there and paces. Adam says Sienna seems nice enough, and it's nice of him to be defensive. Sharon and Adam are sure that Sienna has been in peril for times. Adam says the odds of Noah being involved with the woman of a sickie who has tortured his parents for times are a little wild. It seems like it's all part of some plot. Noah refuses to entertain that and goes on about how amazing Sienna is. Adam is induced she's that smart if she married Matt Clark. That irritates Noah, who asks his mama if she trusts her. Sharon admits she may have rushed to judgment, but can see Sienna is sincere and is sure she's affrighted. Adam apologizes and says he trusts Noah's instincts. Victor shows up and announces that Nick is taking care of effects. Nick meets Matt on the overlook and asks if they've a deal or not. Matt wants $5 million or Noah doesn't see his Jezebel again. Nick demands evidence of life. Matt tells Rich Boy it's his lucky day. He shows him the videotape. Nick says it'll take hours to get that kind of plutocrat together. Matt wants it within the hour or he'll shoot him a veritably different videotape of Sienna. Once Clark takes off, Nick calls his pater to say Matt is on the move. Matt returns to Annie at the motel and tells her the plutocrat should be in his account within the hour. She assumes that means the suckers get to live. What gives you that idea? He asks. He'll take the plutocrat, but the suckers are going to end up in a deep, dark grave. Nick rushes over to Sharon's and announces that Sienna is alive but has been cured. Matt wants $5 million to close the deal. Noah worries this has all been a mind game, and Matt doesn't watch about the plutocrat. Smiling Tessa surprises Daniel at Crimson Lights. They sputter about the music he's listening to, and he shares an earbud with her. She leads him onto the yard. He assumes she's going to tell him she regrets last night. He doesn't, but he can understand if she does. Tessa pulls him into a kiss. She has no regrets. It's been so long since she let herself count to someone. Neither of them know what's coming. He says they don't need to label this moment, just enjoy it. He suppositions she's thinking of her woman. She tells him she needs him. She's been trying to talk to her woman for months, but has only been crushed by silence. The limbo has lasted long enough, and she needs to feel whole again, for her own sake and Aria's. She called a council this morning and started divorce proceedings. That sounds final to him. She sees no other choice. He hopes he hasn't made effects worse and only tried to be a friend to her. Daniel no way anticipated to have these redundant passions for her. He admits that what they've has turned into commodity beautiful, indeed if that's meant that all his plans to just be musketeers went out the window. She tells him not to feel shamefaced. What's going on with them has nothing to do with Mariah. She held on to her marriage because of his support for longer than she'd have if she'd been alone. Tessa reminds him she's in this fight alone and she's done. Mariah moved on, and she's given him the courage to do the same. He admires her frippery and asks if he should step down for her sake. She asks him not to push her down like her woman has. He wants to give her whatever she needs. She wants his trust and honesty, and for him to be there. She asks him to see her and hold her. They kiss. Mariah is in some motel, telling a family print that she didn't sleep last night and doesn't indeed know what day it is. She wonders if Tessa was singing lullabies to Aria. She remembers she sang to Dominic when she was carrying him. Every time she closes her eyes, the same agonies is there. Ian appears. She tells him to go down. He thinks that sitting around and moping is unproductive. She claims she's only cut her family out temporarily while she figures effects out. He accuses her of lying to herself. Egging her to look in the glass, he pushes her to dig down deep and do what needs to be done. As she sobs, he tells her how noble her conduct have been. She burned down her life, and Tessa has moved on because she made that be. Now she needs to release that part of her life, ever. She knows that wanting her woman and child back would hurt them, but needs the stopgap of them drinking her back. That's the only thing that keeps her hanging on. Ian says she's adhering to the insolvable, and that's stopping her from pursuing her fortune. It's time for her to reclaim what's truly hers. It's time for her to say farewell, and he's going to help her do it. She screams and cries as she tears up the family print. He's proud of her and says she's done the right thing. Ian is sure her faith will light the way to her getting whole again. Embracing what's ahead will pull her back together. She doubts she can pull this off, but he assures her she's his strongest convert and can do what needs to be done. You're right, she says. The path is clear, and she only has to believe. Also, nothing can go awry. Matt's video proof explodes onto the screen, and the chilling words, $5 million, echo through Genoa City. The young and the restless tilts into one of those dark, breathless chapters fans live for. A chapter where truth is no longer whispered in corners, but weaponized, broadcast, and turned into a ticking clock that drags Mariah's already fractured destiny into something twisted, inevitable, and terrifyingly personal. As the grainy footage, shaky yet undeniable, shows everything Matt promised and everything Mariah prayed would never be seen, the camera catching stolen glances, coded conversations, and one fatal moment that reframes months of suspicion into hard, merciless fact, leaving Victor staring at the screen like a general realizing the enemy has breached the walls, Sharon's hands trembling as she recognizes her daughter's voice in the background, and Mariah herself frozen in that uniquely horrifying space between denial and recognition, because she knows, before anyone says it out loud, that this video isn't just proof of a crime or a betrayal, but a noose tightening around her future, especially when Matt follows it with his demand. $5 million cash, untraceable, delivered on his terms, or the video goes public, and with it Mariah's carefully rebuilt life, her fragile trust with Sharon, her love with Tessa, and whatever hope she still clings to of being more than the sum of her worst mistakes, all of it threatening to shatter in a single viral upload. And what makes it even more brutal is Matt's calm, almost smug tone, the way he frames the demand as business, as if blackmail is just another transaction, as if Mariah isn't a human being but a pawn he's been patient enough to trap, and the city reacts instantly. Because in Genoa City secrets are currency, and this one is priceless. Jack senses blood in the water but hesitates, knowing Victor won't sit idle. Phyllis smells opportunity and danger in equal measure. Nikki's instincts scream that this isn't just about money, and Adam, watching from the shadows, recognizes the look in Mariah's eyes because he's worn it himself. The look of someone who knows their past is finally caught up with them, and as the pressure mounts, the question stops being whether the money will be paid and becomes who will pay the real price, because $5 million is steep but survivable for the titans of Genoa City, while the emotional cost of exposure is infinite, and Mariah, spiraling between panic and defiance, insists she won't let Matt win, even as every instinct tells her he already has, because the video doesn't just show what happened, it shows why. Revealing layers of manipulation, fear, and desperation that complicate the moral lines until even Sharon, desperate to protect her daughter, is forced to confront the uncomfortable truth that Mariah made choices that can't simply be erased with money, and yet a mother's love doesn't calculate consequences. It reacts, it plans, it sacrifices, pushing Sharon toward dangerous alliances she swore she'd never revisit, while Tessa, blindsided and hurt, struggles to reconcile the woman she loves with. The images on the screen, her heartbreak colliding with loyalty in a way that leaves her torn between standing by Mariah and protecting her own soul from being dragged into the fallout, and Matt, relishing every second, tightens the screws, leaking just enough rumors to spark speculation without releasing the full video, watching the city buzz, watching Mariah unravel, because this was never only about money for him. It's about control, about rewriting the power dynamic so that he's no longer the one in the shadows, but the puppet master pulling strings, and Mariah's destiny, already shaped by a lifetime of abandonment, manipulation, and survival, begins to twist again, not into the familiar shape of self-destruction but into something colder and more calculating, because cornered people evolve, and Mariah starts to see that the only way out may be through a darkness she hoped she'd left behind. A willingness to outmaneuver Matt at his own game, even if it means becoming someone she barely recognizes, and Victor, sensing the threat to the family name and the potential leverage over Sharon and Nick, considers paying the money as a temporary fix, but Adam warns him that Matt won't stop, that men like him never do, and this internal Newman war adds another volatile layer, because if Victor refuses to pay, the fallout could destroy Mariah, but if he pays, he invites a future where anyone with dirt can hold the Newmans hostage, and so alliances shift by the hour, secret meetings take place in dimly lit rooms, phones buzz with half-formed plans, and Mariah, exhausted yet sharpened by fear, makes a choice that changes everything. Instead of waiting for rescue, she confronts Matt directly, meeting him face-to-face with a composure that unsettles even him, because she doesn't beg, she doesn't cry, she studies him, calls out his bluff, and hints that she has leverage of her own, a suggestion that the video may not be the only evidence in play, that Matt's hands aren't as clean as he pretends, and in that moment the power balance wavers, just slightly, enough to remind him that Mariah has survived worse than him, that she knows how predators think because she's been prey her entire life, and this confrontation sends shockwaves through her relationships, because when Sharon learns Mariah went alone, fear turns to anger, and when Tessa finds out, love turns to terror. Yet beneath it all is a grudging respect, a recognition that Mariah is no longer running, she's fighting, even as the deadline looms closer and the $5 million demand becomes a countdown clock ticking in every scene, pushing characters to reveal who they truly are under pressure, with Phyllis tempted to leak information for her own gain, Jack torn between morality and strategy, Nick caught between family loyalty and his own code, and Victor weighing the cost of one woman's redemption against the empire he's built. While the video itself becomes almost mythic, a digital Pandora's box that everyone fears opening but can't stop talking about, and as the hours slip away, Mariah's twisted destiny crystallizes into a brutal truth. Whether the video is released or the money is paid, she will never be the same. Because survival this time doesn't mean walking away unscathed, it means choosing which scars she can live with, and in a final, gut-wrenching turn, the story pivots not on Matt's demand but on Mariah's decision to tell her truth first, to strip the video of its power by owning what she did, why she did it, and who she refuses to be again, a move that shocks Genoa City, infuriates Matt, and fractures alliances, because confession is the one weapon he didn't account for, and as the fallout ripples outward, jobs lost, relationships tested, reputations tarnished, the $5 million suddenly feels small compared to the price of honesty, and Mariah, standing in the wreckage of her choices, realizes that her destiny was never about escaping her past, but about facing it head-on, even when it hurts, even when it costs her everything, because in Genoa City survival isn't just about secrets kept, it's about the courage to live after they're exposed, and as the dust settles, the lingering question isn't whether Matt got his money or whether the video went public, but whether Mariah's bold gamble has finally broken the cycle of manipulation that's haunted her since the beginning, or whether this is just another chapter in a life where redemption is always hard-won and never guaranteed, leaving viewers breathless, hearts racing, and desperate to see what twisted turn her destiny will take next. And just when Genoa City thinks it has absorbed the shockwave of Mariah's confession, the aftershocks begin to roll in, deeper and more personal, because truth doesn't land cleanly in this town. It ricochets, it bruises, it exposes fault lines people didn't even know were there, and Mariah's choice to speak first doesn't end Matt's threat so much as mutated, transforming him from a smug blackmailer into a wounded, dangerous animal who realizes he's losing control of the narrative, and that loss terrifies him far more than any legal consequence ever could, because the video was supposed to define Mariah, reduce her to a single damning image, yet now it hangs in limbo. Stripped of its shock value, its power dulled by her refusal to hide, forcing Matt to decide whether releasing it would actually destroy her or only confirm her strength, while Sharon, watching her daughter stand in the fire and refuse to burn, feels a complex mix of pride and grief, pride in Mariah's courage and grief for the pain that made such courage necessary, and this emotional collision spills into every relationship Mariah touches, especially with Tessa, whose heartbreak evolves into something quieter and more devastating, a cautious rebuilding that requires honesty not as a grand gesture, but as a daily discipline, a process where forgiveness isn't promised but possibility remains, fragile and real. And as the city buzzes with debate, was Mariah brave or reckless, empowered or manipulated? The Newmans recalibrate their strategy, Victor privately furious that control slipped through his fingers, yet begrudgingly impressed by Mariah's audacity, Nick stepping closer into her orbit not as a savior but as an ally, someone who understands that redemption isn't clean and that standing beside someone doesn't mean agreeing with everything they've done, while Adam, ever the mirror to Mariah's darker instincts, recognizes the dangerous freedom that comes with having nothing left to lose, warning her that exposure can be just as addictive as secrecy, and that once you stop caring what people think, you have to be careful not to stop caring about yourself. Advice that lands heavier than he expects, because Mariah is standing at a crossroads where empowerment and self-destruction look hauntingly similar, and Matt, refusing to fade quietly, pivots his plan, turning his attention from money to vengeance, leaking selective details, twisting context, attempting to recast Mariah's confession as manipulation rather than accountability, hoping to provoke doubt, fatigue, and backlash, and for a moment it works, because Genoa City loves a fallen hero almost as much as it loves a redemption story, and whispers grow louder, eyes colder, opportunities quietly withdrawn, reminding Mariah that honesty doesn't guarantee mercy, it only guarantees clarity. And in this harsher landscape, she's forced to confront the true cost of her decision, not jail time or financial ruin, but the slow, grinding erosion of trust in places she didn't expect, small moments where conversations stop when she enters a room, where smiles don't quite reach people's eyes, where she has to decide over and over again not to retreat into the defensive sarcasm and emotional armor that once kept her safe, because that would mean letting Matt win in a different way, and as pressure mounts, the focus shifts from the video to Matt himself, his past coming under scrutiny as Jack and Phyllis dig deeper, uncovering inconsistencies, buried grudges, and a pattern of coercion that reframes him not as a mastermind but as a man desperate to feel powerful in a world that keeps overlooking him, a revelation that complicates everything, because exposing Matt could neutralize the threat once and for all, but it would also mean dragging Mariah through another public reckoning, reopening wounds that haven't even begun to heal. And the choice lands back where it always does, with Mariah, who now understands that destiny isn't something that happens to her, but something she participates in, even when the options are all painful, and in a quietly pivotal moment, she chooses to collaborate rather than isolate, bringing Sharon, Tessa, and Nick into the plan, refusing to carry the burden alone, a small but profound shift that signals real growth, because for perhaps the first time in her life, Mariah isn't trying to survive by outsmarting everyone else, but by trusting that she deserves help. And this collective front begins to close in on Matt, pressure building from multiple angles, legal, social, emotional, until the man who once dictated terms finds himself cornered by the very tactics he relied on, and when the final confrontation comes, it isn't explosive or violent, but deeply unsettling, a reckoning where Matt is forced to face the emptiness beneath his need for control, and Mariah, steady and unflinching, refuses to hate him, a choice that robs him of the emotional payoff he craved, leaving him exposed, diminished, and ultimately powerless. And as the dust settles again, because in Genoa City it always does, at least temporarily, the story doesn't wrap itself in a neat bow. Relationships remain strained, reputations imperfectly repaired, and Mariah's future still uncertain. But something fundamental has shifted, because her twisted destiny, once defined by manipulation, secrecy, and reaction, has been bent, perhaps not straightened, but redirected toward intention, accountability, and connection. And in the quiet aftermath, as life resumes its familiar rhythm of boardroom battles and romantic tension, Mariah stands not as a victim of Matt's video or a pawn in someone else's game, but as a woman who faced exposure and chose to live anyway, scars visible, voice steady, future unwritten, reminding everyone in Genoa City and everyone watching that survival isn't the same as freedom, but it can be the first step toward it, especially when the truth, once feared as a weapon, becomes the very thing that sets you loose.